Okay, let's look at two methods for solving a fraction filled equation. And the first method I want to look at is by finding the least common multiple. Least common multiple. Okay, so for least common multiple, I look at the denominator. So there's a 4. So I write 4. And then there's a 2 in the 1/2. So I write a 2. And then also don't forget, really, there's a 4 here. And that's 4 divided by 1. So I should also put a 1. We usually kind of forget about this one, but that's okay. And so then the least common multiple of 4, 2, and 1 is 4. So then with the least common multiple method, the idea then is I multiply my entire equation by the least common multiple. And don't forget, when you multiply an equation, you have to multiply by the entire left-hand side and the entire right-hand side. So make sure you multiply by everything. Don't leave anything out. So on the left-hand side, I have 4 distributing to both terms across the addition symbol. So I get 4 times 1/4 plus 4 times 1/2 times t is equal to, and on the right hand side I have 4 times 4, which just makes 16. Okay, so 4 times 1/4 over here on the left hand side is 1, and 4 times 1/2 times t is 2t, and that's still equal to 16. So I subtract 1 from both sides and I get 2t is equal to 15. And then t equals 15 over 2. And 15 over 2 is my final answer. So I used the least common multiple method. I multiplied both sides by the least common multiple in order to clear out the fractions. And when I cleared out the fractions, I got this pretty simple, straightforward equation. Let's look at this other idea that maybe you referred to as the reciprocal method. So the reciprocal method, the idea then is I'm going to start with the same 1/4 plus 1/2 times t is equal to 4. And the reciprocal method, the strategy is, well, I'm going to solve first for the term that has the variable. So I'm going to get that on one side all by itself and everything else on the other side. So in order to do that, what I need to do is subtract 1/4 from both sides of the equation. And on the left-hand side, I'll have 1/2 times t is equal to 4 minus 1/4. Now on the right-hand side over here, I need to find a way to combine those two fractions together. Well, if I have a common denominator of 4, so 16 over 4 minus 1 over 4. And once again, what did I do? Well, this is 4 over 1. And I converted that to 16 over 4 by multiplying 4 over 1 times 4 over 4, which is 16 over 4, minus 1 over 4. So then I have 1/2 times t on the left-hand side is equal to 15 over 4. When I'm adding and subtracting a fraction, I have a common denominator and I leave the bottom alone, and I do the adding and subtracting on the top, leaving 15 over 4. So now comes this idea of the reciprocal business. So I have a 1/2 as the coefficient of the t, and the reciprocal of a 1/2 is 2 over 1. And so then I multiply everything in the equation by 2 over 1, which is really just the same as 2, right? And I do that to the left-hand side. into the right-hand side. And the idea when I do that, when I multiply a number by its reciprocal, as multiplication reciprocal, I get 1. So I have t on the left-hand side because 2 times 1/2 is 1. And that's equal to 2 over 1 times 15 over 4. And you can think of this a couple of different ways. This is 30 over 4. 2 times 15 makes 30. And 1 times 4 makes 4, which is 15 over 2. Or you could have said that that was 2 over 1 times 15 over 4, and then recognize that this 2 and this 4 would simplify to a half, leaving you with 15 over 2. Well, either way, you get t is equal to 15 over 2 as your answer, and once again, that's what we got using the least common multiple method. So either way, it'll work. The least common multiple method is a very powerful tool to clear out the fractions ahead of time and get something that is not that complicated to deal with. And this other method, it can be a little more tricky, but it also can get you to the solution. Okay, I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any more questions.